What was that?
I was just trying to make you crack, girl.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Hello,
Oh, hello.
I'm Sammy,
And I'm Steve.
and you're listening to Rose Plate Special, the most dramatic, high landingest, Haggissingest, 500 milesingest recap podcast of The Bachelor ever.
Ever! Makes
And
you want to throw a big stump.
this is the most Scottish episode ever.
Oh my god.
It was so exciting. Yeah, and so it's pronounced Edinburgh, right? Isn't that how you say it? Okay.
Yeah.
Phew. Phew. Wanted to
Yeah,
make
don't
sure I'm
say
saying it right.
Edinburgh. Don't
Or
say that.
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh. That's how you got to do it.
Oh,
Like
nice.
that.
Okay, yeah.
Real
So
ferocity.
they're in Scotland.
Yeah.
That's the worst Scottish accent you'll ever get.
Wait, are you the Highlander? Oh my god,
Oh
that's
my God.
amazing.
Yeah. Well, there was a brief moment of time where Ancestry said I was 15% Scottish, and I was like,
Oh, let's
wow.
go.
And then I got an update and they were like, actually, maybe close to 0. And I was like,
Mm,
how, I mean, I know how it works, because that stuff isn't, it's like based
yeah.
on the data that we have. And now we've amassed more data and whatever. But I went from being, like 15% Scottish to like maybe like 1 or 2%. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. And I was like so excited because I was like, I never knew that I
Yeah.
had Scottish relatives. But why does it say all these Irish and German people in my tree and English
Mm-hmm.
people? Because I don't know. Maybe there's like one Scottish person who just like, got
Also,
mixed in there.
my favorite, like, uniquely American trait, like, you go anywhere else in the world. So let's say that you're in Rome and you
Yeah.
ask some Italian guy, like, hey, like, what are you? And he's just like, fucking Italian. Like, what?
Yeah.
But like, if you go to America, no one would ever answer that question. It's just like, I'm American. Like, then
Well,
everyone's just like, I am exactly 19.6% Scottish. Exactly.
exactly.
And
No
then that becomes your
variation.
personality. That's the whole thing.
Well, okay. So, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'm literally writing an entire, it
Yeah.
was a thesis. Now it's probably a dissertation about this, which we can talk about later. But no, I think that's it. Well, okay. We said we were going to do this short, and then you bring out
Yeah.
this topic that
Yeah.
I'm like, I could talk about this for hours.
Yeah.
But that's a problem, right? Like, well, I mean, there are lots of people I think now these days who would be like, I'm American because of the
Yeah.
world we live in right now. But that is like a major issue that, people from like people who are European American are so divorced from their ancestry that they don't understand where they came
Mhm.
from. So a lot of the work that I've been doing lately is learning more about my ancestry to understand maybe things that were disconnected a long time ago, like from before my grandparents and my great grandparents. Like, I think I feel like a lot of us I'll just speak from my own perspective. I grew up hearing a lot of stories. I don't know if I
Mhm.
brought this up on the podcast before or not, but like I grew up with like a lot of stories about like things that happened. Like my dad's mom would tell these stories about like your ancestors were beheaded by the Bolsheviks. And I was like, that's a
Right.
wild thing to say. And then to find out that I'm actually part of this like German minority group that traveled to Russia in like the
Mhm.
late 1700s, early 1800s with the promise of land, who had been like genocided twice and deported from the country in like the early 1910s, 1920s. And that definitely probably happened to some of my relatives was like so weird to find out when I actually started reading about my history. I'm like, oh, she wasn't wrong. And she was like, all these records were lost in a fire. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then to find out that like all these settlements along the Volga River were destroyed,
Mhm.
I was like, oh, so she was right. But it also kind of lent into that Russian Russian American story of like, you're secretly a Romanov, like, you know what I
That's what I
mean?
was gonna say.
So it's like me
And
as a
thus
kid.
begins The Princess Diaries Part 4, starring
Right.
Sammy.
Me as a kid, like, being obsessed with Anastasia and being like, that's the best movie I've ever
Oh,
seen.
yeah,
And John Cusack, wow. And Hank
obviously.
Azaria and Meg I mean, come on. The voice
Mhm.
acting was ridiculous. Um, And I was like, "That's such a romantic notion. I have brown hair and blue eyes. Maybe I'm a Romanov," you know? And then to find
Really?
out, no, I just came from, like, farmers who were
Oh, yeah.
discriminated against the entire time they were in Russia. And then they came to America and they were just treated like they were Russian as well.
Mhm.
So they didn't belong in any place. You know, it's like understanding those kinds of things, I do think reconnects you. And it goes beyond that surface level of like, oh, I did this ancestry thing and it turns out I'm 15% or 0% Scottish. So there you go. You got a serious
Mhm.
answer to a joke thing you said.
That's okay.
And we,
I just like guys from Boston are like, "Yeah, I'm Irish." It's like,
yeah.
"Yeah, dude, no, you're not. You're from fucking Massachusetts. Fuck off."
Yeah, yeah. No, that was another story my grandma used to say. She said like, "Oh, well, cause like she would say weird stuff like, "Oh, cause we kissed the Blarney Stone, we're Irish." But it turns out I'm like 25% Irish. So
Oh.
I was like, "Wait, we are Irish, but just not in the way that you described it." And she was probably like almost 100% Irish and French. She was
Mhm.
like Irish and French Canadian, I think. But anyway,
Yeah.
really
Listen,
interesting stuff.
I'm more interested in my family's history, like, once they got to America, because I mean, fuck it, like, I'm just like a giant like, everybody in Europe banged, and then they shook them
And then
all
they
up,
made you.
and then they made me personally.
You
Uh,
personally, only you.
but listen, here's one thing that is absolutely true and absolutely hilarious. So my I guess it'd be my great-great-grandparents,
Mhm.
so I'm originally from Michigan, and they were, friends, like, socially with the Fords and the Firestones, okay?
Oh,
Which is
wow.
stupid. How did I end up poor? Like, where's this trickle down? Like, if you ever
So
wanna
rude. Yeah.
indictment of trickle down economics, why am I not rich? Bullshit. Um,
Complete bullshit.
but so this would have been just my great grandma, and so this would have been her sister. Henry Ford came back from some trip and gave them like gifts, and he gave my great grandma, I don't know, like a necklace or something, and he gave uh, would have been my great aunt, I guess, a monkey, and the monkey bit her, and she got a disease and she died.
Wow.
Henry Ford killed my great aunt with a
Holy
monkey.
crap.
Is that fucking weird?
That is so weird.
Yeah, and I'm not rich.
Yeah. I'm gonna go see the monkey tomorrow, by the way. Anyway, that's wild.
Just stew on that one for a bit.
That's
But
really
anyways,
wild.
The
The
Bachelor.
Bachelor. Well, now, okay, the only interesting well, I have 2 interesting ancestry stories besides the weird shit that my grandma told me
Mhm.
that is, like, now true, and now I'm like, "I guess she wasn't so cuckoo after all." Like, there's some truth to the weird shit she said, except for, like, don't buy a red car because people will get mad and hit you.
Mm.
She and she was like, "Computers are listening to us." She was just ahead of her time on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, like, my great uncle, I think, great uncle or great great uncle was,
Mhm.
like so I have, like, all this family that, like, lived in Montreal and I think still lives up there, so I've gotta try to figure out, like, living relatives out there. I think would be fun to, meet some of them, but
Mhm.
my, like, great uncle or something like that was, like, this big NHL coach, and he lived to, like, 90, and he coached, like, a few teams, and so, like, when he died, he got, like, a really great obituary, you know, it was, like, lived to 90 and was, like, this
Yeah.
huge inspirational, like, NHL coach. And then the other one is on my mom's side, I think it was my great-great-grandmother, was this midwife who delivered 2,500 babies in Oshkosh.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
babies.
Yeah, it's a
That's the
lot of
entire
babies.
population of Oshkosh.
Like, legendary midwife. Yeah, pretty cool. So, it's like, she knew all these families and stuff, and, like, yeah,
Yeah.
so she also got a really good tribute in the paper. But nobody I mean, outside of the Bolsheviks, I don't know who else killed my
Yeah. Not Henry Ford.
family. Yeah, maybe someone got killed by, like, a hockey puck, who knows?
Yeah, you never know.
In Canada, anything can happen. But anyway, we're in Scotland. Wild that Zoe hasn't had a one-on-one yet, and she does not get one in this episode.
It doesn't even matter because she's just gonna win. Like, this is so funny to me.
Wow,
Like,
that's it's so bold of you to say that. I'm not sure at this point. Well, we can get there, but at this
yeah.
point, I really don't know who's going to win. I felt like I had good feelings about people who like all got off the show
Mhm.
this week. So I was just like,
Yeah, it's
I
kinda
don't know
odd.
anything. But Grant starts this episode by saying all like the keywords. He was like clarity, journey, my person. Um,
Oh, get
but
out your bingo cards.
here's the thing. I mean, I think we can make a really strong case for Juliana winning the whole thing because she gets the shopping date.
Yeah, she does get the shopping date.
Just
That's
saying.
totally fair.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she gets the shopping date, and this is interesting because they have them wear all this, like, traditional Scottish stuff, and then they just come out wearing, like, normal fancy clothes for this
Mhm.
event, and I was
Yeah.
like, "That's kinda a cop out." I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Even
just kinda
even when they
sad.
travel abroad, I'm just like, "Ah, a little chintzy, I don't know," like
Like a little American for my taste. Like, I was just
Yeah.
like, "This is cool." Like, you're wearing, like, yeah, like tartans and stuff, like, and that's cool. And another thing that I'm doing as part of like my ancestry exploration is learning more about like the textiles that got made in the region where my people were from. And
Mhm.
that's like the specific type of like gingham and whatever. And so I was like, this is cool. Like, I love how fabrics like connect cultures. And I would call myself a fiber artist, I guess.
Mhm.
And so I'm very interested in that kind of thing. And then they're just like, but we're just going to wear like regular stuff that we would wear anywhere. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, well,
Sure.
that's fine. And then they go to this like ball or whatever, and they're dancing to like it's the Highwaymen, right? Isn't that the name of the band?
No. What is their name? Yeah, who sings it? It's
Yeah,
like
it's the
2
Highway. Wait,
brothers,
or
is
no,
it?
no, 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 no. What is it? What's the name of this? Hold
The
on.
Proclaimers is
The
the name, I believe.
Proclaimers. Why do
There
I
we
think the
go.
Highwaymen? I don't know,
I don't
because 'cause they're
know.
going on the highway. The Proclaimers. Yeah, so they're listening to this, like, the Proclaimers song, "I'm Gonna Be 500 Miles," um, done by violin, which is, like, also, like, a very Lindsey Sterling type of a thing to do or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and they're like so it's like it's kind that's the thing, it's like, it's kind of cultural, it's kind of absolutely not.
Mhm.
But whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like when you go to a wedding and then they play the string quartet music of popular pop songs,
yeah,
and then it yeah.
Yeah, and then people are like, "That's so cool, isn't it?" And I'm like, "In some ways it's cool." Like, it depends
Yeah.
on who's doing it and the context. I don't know.
No, I need someone with a violin to play "WAP" by Cardi B while I'm walking down the aisle.
Yeah,
That's it.
there's something WAP. You say WAP, not
WAP,
WAP?
WAP, WAP.
WAP?
I'm
That's
too
so
Midwestern.
Midwestern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
It's the song WAP by
WAP,
Cardi
WAP,
B.
WAP by Cardi B, you know?
Oh, I just love it when they play WAP. It's
What's
my
that there that's
favorite.
wet there? I'm unaware. No, I don't you just
Oh,
you go to a lot of these, like, weddings and, I mean, and it's not bad, it's fine, but, like, I always wonder, I'm like, do they think they're fooling anybody? Do they think they're the first person to do this, or is this just what we're doing? Or I don't know. This is like
yeah.
real, and no offense, because I know you were once a barn wedding girly, but like I
Yeah.
went to a string of barn weddings over the course of like
A
2 to
barn
3
wedding
years.
girly, which really took me out at like 10 seconds later. Sorry,
But
keep
like
going.
I feel like I'm like, guys, did you like all like just coordinate? Because it was just
Listen, I
like
was one
the
of the
same
first
thing.
barn wedding girlies. Here's the thing. I always
I
start
invented
trends.
barns.
No, no, I'm serious. I'm always like one of the first people to do these things, and then everybody does it. Then I'm like, now it looks like fucking
Mm,
so stupid. But
yeah.
anyway, it's fine.
You want to put some fairy lights in a mason jar, girl, or what?
Yeah. Well, I like DIY'd every like I can't even tell you. I spent a year and a half making paper origami bouquets. Okay.
I know, I
Get on
know.
my level, everyone.
Get on my level. I'm sorry. I won't talk shit about pop song
No, no,
string
no. You can.
quartets.
No, keep talking shit. It's fine. It's
That's what I
fine.
do best.
It didn't work out. It's
Yeah,
fine.
it's fine. It's fine.
I didn't even wanna do it, and then I did it so
Yeah.
hardcore. It was
This
like
is the Sammy Steve dynamic is Steve's like, you know what I hate? This completely innocuous thing. And then Sammy goes, actually, that's me. And then I walk it back.
Okay, wait, I need to tell you okay, we will keep this short. There's not a lot to
Mhm.
talk about in this episode, so we'll keep it short. We've got places to be, okay?
Mhm. Yeah,
We've
places
got
to
we've
be.
got illegal things to do apparently. I
Yeah,
won't say more than
I
that.
got illegal activities to do. Yeah.
I might go to a craft fair, which is completely on the up and up.
Yeah.
So it's funny, one of my clients just did like a photo shoot somewhere or like a video shoot somewhere.
Mhm.
And it was like at this place where it was like all lofts and things like that. So they had like different scenes and places that you could go. And um we it was me and then like our social media coordinator, and she was picking the venue. She had like two places to pick from, and we were kind of talking about it. She's like, I like this one because it's like more industrial, it's kind of like moody and cool, whatever. And I was like, I agree. I think that looks really cool. So I think you should pick that. And afterwards, he's like telling me about it. And well, and I heard this from another like team member too. And she was like, because he didn't say this part directly to me, but I know he said it. Apparently, he was like, well, I was afraid to touch things because I don't know what else they're filming here, you know?
Mhm.
He was like, I was kind of afraid to touch the pillows. But then in like the same breath she goes, but he did go like, "Oh, it's like very moody and dark and mysterious and industrial. It's very Sammy." And I was like, "But you were afraid to touch things?" Like, I don't really know how to feel about that. And I still haven't taken him to task for that. I'm like, I gotta remember to be like, "So
Yeah.
wait, you were afraid to touch things, but you also thought it was like very me. Like, what does that
Mhm.
what
What
does
does
that
that mean?
mean?
Can we
What does that
unpack
mean? What
that?
are you
Yeah.
implying?"
That always freaks me
No.
out. Like whenever, especially if there's multiple people that are like, "Oh, have you seen this or have you been here?" It's such a Steve thing. And I'm like, if three people say that to me, I'm like, "Oh no, what are we defining as a Steve thing?"
Yeah.
Uh yeah, like the last thing was The Substance. A bunch of people saw this. They're like, "Oh, it's such a Steve movie," and I was like,
The
"It better be
Substance
fucking good."
The Substance is so good. I mean, so that was my favorite movie of 2024 for
Yeah,
sure. Like,
good. Apparently, it's very Steve core. But
I
also
think
to our
about it
listeners, what does that mean? I mean, it's
I
for
think
you
about
to
it all the
unpack.
time. I think of The Simpsons constantly. Yeah, I totally like, I take full offense to anyone who said that they thought, like, Portland would be a Sammy thing. I take full
Hmm.
offense to that. Full
Yeah,
offense, okay?
yeah.
That's not a Sammy thing. You don't know me.
Your Portlandia ass.
Yeah, I'm like, "You don't know me at all, okay? It has to be real. It has to be that stuff, but not feel manufactured." Like, Asheville is a Sammy thing. Portland is not a Sammy thing.
Mm,
There's a difference,
yeah.
okay? Learn
You're
the
like,
difference.
maybe Portland, Maine.
Yeah, actually, well, Maine kinda scares me. I mean, in
Yeah.
in general, because they really just do whatever they want out
Yeah.
there. It's
It
like
is. It's a
I've
little
only been to
lawless.
Bar Harbor though, really, so I can't really say much about Maine. Bar Harbor's
Portland,
cool.
Maine slaps. They got really good lobster rolls. Highly
Yeah,
recommend.
yeah. Bar Harbor's cool, it's very dog friendly. Okay, that's all I know. Anyway,
Hey, what
so
are we doing in Scotland here? What's going on? We're doing the
well, so
Highland
okay,
Games.
so Latia gets the one-on-one. So we
Mhm.
find out so afterwards, after this date, the Proclaimers, my brain goes the Highwaymen
Yeah.
because I'm tired. Latia gets the one-on-one, Zoe doesn't get it. Carolina gets more time at this group date. So okay, so they go on this group date. They do like Highland Games kind of.
This shit
And
is so dumb. Like this is like the ongoing like multi-episode arc of just like this comedy of people misunderstanding each other
yeah.
and misreading situations. It's amazing. This is the biggest non-issue ever.
Yeah, so here's my general takeaway. This will cut through all the bullshit. Carolina is 100% right. She's
Mhm.
100% right about everything she says during all of this shit. She first of all is picking up the fact that Grant is not going to pick her. And
Mhm.
she's trying to get off the show more gracefully.
Yeah.
And
Good on
then
her.
and then I don't know, but the weird thing is then Grant's like, "Oh, maybe I'm not ready to let her go just yet. I
Yeah.
don't know." Or
Haha,
make it more
baby.
dramatic.
I'm still gonna don't be worried, girl. Shut up.
It was
Just kick her
so
off,
it
man.
was so weird because it seemed like he was about to break up with her. I think
Yeah.
Carolina felt that, we felt that because he was just like, "Sometimes it's time to just, like, let things go. If they're not working, you just
Mhm.
gotta move." And I'm like, "Okay, this is a good out." She was picking up on this, you are, confirming it, and then she starts to get a little more vulnerable, and then he's like, "Actually, you know what? You can stick around."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, okay, what?"
Mhm.
And then the other women just read it as like, "Oh, well, they're just hanging out and having a good time." I'm like, "I don't know. I'm sure some producer was in her ear sowing doubt and being like, "You gotta make sure that you solidify your chances, or it's like it's now or never. You're in or out," you know? And
Yeah.
she's like, "You're right. I gotta do
And
this."
let the record show that even though Carolina understands the game, because there's different types of conflicts in The Bachelor, and one of them is I don't know how it works, and the other one is I am aware of how it works, but it still doesn't feel nice. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
I again, like I would challenge anyone. Imagine you start dating someone and you really like them, but you're only a couple weeks in, and whoops a daisy, you have to compete with like a dozen other women for the same guy. That doesn't feel good. That sounds like anxiety to me, especially in a high stress situation. So, yeah, I think on a group date, if I'm already feeling down and I'm feeling like I'm losing out, but I still kind of like this person, that sucks. And she's just kind of like off and kind of bummed out,
Yeah.
and she's watching the plane crash. She knows she's getting booted, and she's right. Grant pulls her. Grant sees her,
Mhm.
and and the girl's like, "Oh, she's sulking." Well, I mean, whatever. But yeah, Grant sees her. Grant pulls her. Grant talks to her, and then she comes back, and they're like, "You ruined everything, and then you made God rain on us, and it ruined the Highland
Yeah,
Games."
it's your fault that it rained and things ended early. Like,
Also, we are the bad boy slash bad girl of Bachelor podcasting, because the amount of Carolina and Zoe hatred out there is It's intense. It is like a
Yeah,
wall of
it's
hatred.
ridiculous. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. Well, and also, okay,
Yeah.
but I
Everyone
will
listening to this, you're wrong.
yeah, you're wrong. How does it feel to be wrong?
Yeah, what's that like? I
Bad
wouldn't
and
know.
wrong. Ugh, ugh, must feel so gross. Um, no, but here's the okay, I'm gonna say this one thing about Zoe though. Zoe,
Mhm.
you cannot play both sides here because
Yeah.
you were like, okay, I'm taking the time.
Mhm.
This is the game. But that's why I'm saying Zoe's not good at the game.
No,
I
she's
keep
bad at the
saying
game.
Zoe is not good at the show at all.
Mm-mm.
She is not manipulative or conniving the way that these women have made her out to be, because if she was,
Mhm.
then she wouldn't turn around and then say, well, she's taking time away from us. I'm like, Zoe, look at yourself. Look at
Mhm.
what you did earlier. You can't do both.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
have to play it either, yeah, you know what, all's fair, like
Mhm.
Maria did, like, Courtney did, where it's like all's fair, you take the time that you need. This is a strategy. Or you say, okay, these are the rules, and you can be like boring like all the other women in this
Mhm.
season where they're like, well, I took turns and I took my time and whatever. But you can't say both. You can't be like, well, I took time and she was like, I remember she was like, I wouldn't be mad if other women did this. Anyone else can take him. Anyone else can go out there. It's like nothing was stopping you from going out to interrupt him while he was talking with Carolina. Nothing.
Yep.
You
Nothing.
could have done that. You could have taken the initiative and done that. You decided not to and like peer out these castle walls to like see
Mhm.
what she's doing or whatever. But you could have done the same thing that she did. And then
Mhm.
Zoe's like, well, I wasn't pouting and I decided to stay optimistic and Carolina wasn't. And I'm like, that was your choice. You decided to play it that way.
Yeah.
Carolina
Totally.
did things a different way. And I don't think either one of them, honestly, is being manipulative. I don't.
Mm-mm.
That's my feeling. Um, I could be completely wrong. We could find out something completely different in the Women Tell All, but I just don't think either one of them is actually good enough at playing the game that
Mm-mm.
it reads to me as a strategy. I
No.
think it's just
No.
their genuine reaction in the moment, which is
Mhm.
why Zoe is now like flip flopping and going, well, yes, we should. I think Zoe might have gotten tired of being treated the way she did in the house. And so she
Yeah.
was like, yes, I'm going to fall in line and
Pretty
say
much.
like taking your turn makes sense. So that bothered me about Zoe this week because I was just like, no, just stand in your truth and stick to your guns and don't be like, oh yeah, now I change my mind because,
Yeah.
it's
Uh,
convenient or whatever.
and this is an important point too because excuse me. This is an important point because we love when we have a season where all the girls get along. It's nice. It's fun. But as a famous bachelorette or a bachelor contestant once said, I'm not here to make friends. That's
Right.
not the point. The point is you got to play the game, even if you're bad at the game. And the idea that like I don't know, there's people in this house that are trying to be like, oh, girly solidarity over everything. It's like not in this situation. In life, yes. In The Bachelor, no. I'm sorry. That's not the point. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Zoe not conniving. What is her greatest skill as a contestant? I guess like wearing a lot of different colored neon dresses and looking very beautiful in them. So
Mhm.
congratulations. But
Congrats.
that's not a skill for manipulating people on a reality dating show.
Yeah, I think Zoe, I mean, you can tell like she doesn't have the level of confidence that these women seem to think that she does.
Hmm.
She crumbles pretty quickly. Carolina too. I think they both have a lot of insecurities and
Yeah.
vulnerabilities, which you're on a national television show. I
Yeah.
think it's like perfectly rational to react that way to a very bizarre situation. And they're like two of the people that I feel like are approaching this in the most authentic way, and they're getting
Yeah.
so much shit for it, and
Hmm.
it's just like weird. I don't know. I just don't really get I don't get the hate, but I would like to see Zoe be consistent, but I think her inconsistency speaks even more to this
Yeah.
is not a strategy. This is not an act. Like this is just she's really trying to get along like
Yep.
in the house. Um I also wanted to know what Carolina's sign was because she was like, "What do you think my sign is?" And I guess Scorpio. Did you have any guesses?
No, I mean, I'm not good at that stuff. But I did like I wanted to know, so I'm curious.
Okay, well, Screen Rant says she's a Sagittarius,
Oh, what up, fellow
which is
Sagittarius?
pretty close to a Scorpio, I have to say, in personality.
I don't know what that means, but
That's
it
exactly
sounds like
what
a
a
really
Sagittarius would say.
it sounds like a really
Just kidding.
good, cool thing as
Yeah.
far as I know.
No, I'm not much of a zodiac girly, but I am a white girl with a nose ring. So, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly,
So
exactly.
I need to tell you what the planets are doing.
All I'm saying is like, you know what? If you are a zodiac girly, or if you're just, a Sammy or whatever, no one can ever talk shit about my sun sign or my moon sign or any of my other signs, because I was born on the same day as Britney Spears. Fuck off. You can't talk shit
Wow.
about
Yeah,
me.
you can't talk shit about yeah. Yeah, I share birthdays with weird people. Not on the same year though as
Mhm.
anybody. Well, I know people actually know a lot of people in my real life that I share birthdays with, even down to the year, which is really interesting
Wow.
and odd. I feel like I mean, what are the chances?
Yeah.
1 in 365 divided by however many or times how many years. Anyway, uh so yeah, no, one time I did get interviewed by Glamour magazine about horoscopes.
Ooh.
So I'm in Glamour
How
magazine
glamorous of you.
with my opinion about horoscopes. That's a true fact. That's a true thing that happened.
Mhm.
But I'm a Taurus, so you know.
Classic bull behavior. Bullishly finding your way into glamour.
Yeah, obviously. I'm like glamour. Hello. Like that's such a Taurian thing. The girls who get it. Anyway, so so okay, yeah, this is interesting. So Carolina, you know, she's having this moment. It's totally, I think, normal and rational. Um, but then Dina flips. She's like, "Well, I was supporting you
Yeah.
until today, and
Yeah.
now I disagree with what you're doing because
Now
I."
that what you did affected me, I don't like it.
Yeah, and she's like, "I don't want," but I really think that there's this culture in the house where it's like, if you don't follow the rules, you are getting iced out. I
Yeah.
really think that's what it is. But
Mhm.
honestly, we're getting to the point right before hometowns. You're not gonna have to spend time with these women anymore. Don't play
No.
nice. This is the time. And also, does this feel like moving really fast to you, like faster than normal?
It is,
Okay.
and
Is
I
it?
felt that in my soul, and
And then you checked.
and then I checked, there's someone I'm gonna get this wrong, but they're called, like, Bachelor PhD or something, or Bachelor Stats, and it's this person who she just, like, literally breaks down statistics on The Bachelor. It's really interesting, and she went through and she had this cool, like, bar chart thing
Ugh, I love a
of
chart.
all the different seasons, and then like how many weeks they had until hometowns.
Mhm.
And Grant's season is like one of the shortest in forever, basically.
Okay, it felt like that. I mean, so this also speaks to the lack of budget that we're talking
Yes,
about. We're even
exactly.
getting fewer episodes. Like Grant, I yeah, like cuz when he's having a talk with I can't remember. It wasn't with Carolina. He said this was with Zoe, I guess. I
Mhm.
think it was with Zoe where he was like all it takes is one conversation, right? Wasn't that what he said to
Yep.
Zoe?
Yep.
Um like all it takes is one conversation to turn things around, so like don't feel bad that you haven't gotten a one-on-one yet. But it's like yeah, Zoe is like quite a strong contender, and the fact that like she's getting to hometowns and has never had one-on-one time, I'm like that's got to be because they had this shortage of time, right?
Yep.
And it
Yep.
was so interesting because like they also the other thing that they could have done is done a different one-on-one. Like Zoe could have gotten that Vanderpump date,
Yeah. Totally.
but then they decided to do it as like a mini group date instead, which was
Yeah,
like
which is
such an
very
odd
odd.
choice.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it everything feels very rushed, and I feel like I know a little bit about each of the women who are remaining, but
Mhm.
I don't know very much about any of them. Like outside of the fact that a lot of them seem to have had really rough upbringings. That seems to be like the common thread with a lot of the women who are left as well.
Mhm.
I don't really know much about them. It's like I kind of forgot about Alex, despite the fact that she was like hugging the llama and crying not too long ago.
Yeah,
Like, because
yeah.
she had such an early, I mean, she had a very early one on one. Was she the first one on one? The mall
Mhm.
date? I
Yeah, I
don't
think
know.
she's Malday, yeah.
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 You know, and it's like, but I thought that she was a pretty strong, like a standout person. And
Mhm.
then to have her go home was like kind of shocking.
It was kinda
Um,
weird, yeah, and
so,
she's, like, one of
yeah.
those people too that was just, like, she seemed a little more lighthearted than the rest of
Yeah.
the group, which was nice breath of fresh air. Juliana, I don't know what her actual personality is aside from East Coast girl, like, I'm
Yeah.
walking here. Like, that's all I got from her.
Well, and now we're gonna get to see, like, her very Italian family next week.
Yeah. And like Dina's the same thing. It's like, Grant, do you want to just like get yelled at because you weren't stirring the spaghetti sauce? Like that's all I'm getting
Well,
from Dina and
she's no,
Juliana.
but isn't she, like, Romanian? Dina's
She might be.
Romanian.
She might be. But like it's just
Yeah.
this like it's strong lady yelling at you energy, which
Yeah.
good or bad if that's what you want, Grant. Uh and then Zoe is Zoe and Latia. Two things I want to point out. One, I love when Carolina just kind of breaks and she's like, "You guys get mad when I do this thing. You guys get mad when I do the other thing. I don't care anymore." And they're yelling at her as she goes upstairs to talk to Grant. And she just goes, "I'm going to be evil and bad."
Yeah.
She's just like,
Like, but sh yeah, it's like she cannot win.
yeah,
Like,
she can't
I
win.
feel like they just want to hate women in the house this season, and
Yeah.
it's just exhausting. Like,
Yeah.
you could get along, you could support each other, this weird puritanical rule following is just like
Hmm.
boring
Yeah.
and like these women are trying to make the show interesting and
Hmm.
also trying to get the time that they don't have, and it's like it's even a better case for them to get the time that they need because there's fewer episodes. This is a shortened timeline that they're
Yep.
working with,
Yep. Exactly.
so
Well,
why wouldn't they?
now the other thing I'm very interested in is the whole Latia of it all.
Yeah.
So she reveals to Grant and in America that she's like, "Oh, I'm Mormon,
Well,
and
we knew
I've."
this already.
Oh, we knew this, but like this is where she like
Is this the
gets
first time
into
Grant
it.
found out? Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, yeah.
I guess so.
So she's like, "Yeah, BT Dubs. Here's my religion.
BT dubs.
My faith is very important to me." Okay. And then, like she's never dated someone outside of that faith, and her family and her, extended network has never like been around someone like Grant. It's just like in my head, if I like Latia, I'm going, I there's a compatibility issue here. Like there's something. So the theory that's been floating around, and I am inclined to believe it, because again, even if you like Latia, how much do you like her enough that like you're gonna go Mormon mode, bro? Because I don't think
Right.
you're gonna do it.
Right.
Is she being Latia, is she a plant because of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, which Bachelor is the lead into now. Bachelor, obviously, budget cuts, there's production issues behind the scenes, different producers getting pushed out.
Tia is a
There's
plant.
trouble in paradise. And we have this Mormon contestant. Are they being ABC, propping her up? Is she going to be someone on, like, say, season 3, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives? Oh, here's our single friend Latia. We got to find her a boy who's not a piece of shit like all of her husbands. Possibilities are endless here. But this is a theory that is floating around, because if The Bachelor is sort of like sinking in the ratings, you have this other thing that is ascending. How do you use that to create something that is mutually beneficial? So that is the theory. Latia seems lovely, though. She seems very fun and nice. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying,
Interesting.
it's a theory that's out
Hmm.
there.
Well, okay, so I found a picture of Latia with Jesse
Hmm.
and who else? But she has a picture that says like Secret Lives of Bachelor Wives.
Hmm.
Um
I am also interested in Latia because she is 31 years old. And it's interesting to me that she is a single woman in the Mormon church at 31, and her job is venture capitalist, which in my mind means my family is rich.
right.
So what is her deal?
Well, I mean, Mormons, we've talked about this before. You know, like Mormons are interesting, right? They
Mhm.
power a lot of business in the country, but a lot of it is exploitative, in
Mhm.
my opinion,
Yeah,
because
I
they
would
are
agree.
MLMs. But there is this like, I don't know, there's a lot of like prosperity ideology and things like
Mhm.
that in Mormonism, not unlike, I don't know, evangelical Christianity or something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. We're not going
I'm
Tammy Faye Baker mode yet, but
well,
also
listen,
shout out Tammy Faye.
Tammy Faye Tammy Faye was an ally, okay? We love Tammy well, I love
Yeah.
Tammy Faye.
The prosperity gospel turned Tammy Faye into a gay icon.
Yeah, for real. I mean, come on. Like, if you didn't watch her interview, with that person with HIV, you're not cool. Because that was amazing. Anyway,
Mhm.
so yeah, okay. So someone said on Reddit, like, I'm trying to understand how a 31-year-old is a venture capitalist. Isn't that someone that gives money to startups? No shade. I mean, like, I guess I could say I'm one because I've invested money in startups,
Yeah.
like $1,000. Can I say I'm a venture capitalist?
I
You
put
know?
I put $30 towards a Kickstarter last month,
Yeah,
so
exactly. So I'm a venture capitalist.
yeah.
Yeah, no shade. I'm just trying to figure out where the money comes from. And said either it's her family's firm or she's totally full of shit. Yeah, it says she works for a venture capital firm on their platform and community. That kind of sounds like marketing then. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, venture capital investor would probably be less confusing. Yeah. She probably works at a firm that manages money that comes from rich people and they
Also
invest that money in
possible.
hopes of generating returns. Probably. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing some theories that she'll be the next bachelorette
Interesting.
and that
The
and it
Secret
will
Lives
be
of Mormon Bachelorette Wives.
right.
Yeah. And that's the
Yeah. So
crossover. That seems possible too, if
I
you
think
really
that
wanna
that is
go all in.
possible. I mean, that's the thing. It's like Mormon influencers are everywhere.
Mhm.
So it's not shocking that there's one on The Bachelor, especially a show like The Bachelor. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me at all. But what I do think is weird is like, I don't know. Mormonism has a very deep seated history of racism.
Mhm. Oh, shit, Sammy. Your audio cut out. Can you hear me?
Oh, I muted on accident. Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
it's okay.
What did you hear me say?
You were like, "Mormons have a history of racism," and then just
And then I
silent.
cut
I'm
out.
like, "Tell
They
me
do.
more."
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I was saying you can watch the Book of Mormon and find that out. I mean, that's
Mhm.
even in the book of the musical, The Book of Mormon. So
Mhm.
I thought it was really interesting. I'm like, I don't know. I have a lot of issues with Mormonism, well, and other, organized
Mhm.
religions in general, but they definitely have a very iffy past with racism.
Yeah.
So, and just like not, and so when she's like, "Oh, well, yeah, of course you'll be accepted," I'm like, I don't know about that. And there's just a lot of like judgment in the church in general. I mean, so that's why a lot of the like Mormon type shows we see are
Mhm.
women in particular because they're not given very much agency in the church, grappling with their faith and trying to decide how they will gently remove themselves without like alienating themselves from like everybody in their
Yeah, yeah.
community, right? Which is like a really tough thing to do. So it's just interesting. So it's not something, what I'm saying is it's like not something that you would enter into lightly. There's like certain things where like if you're going to marry someone and they're like a different faith than you, that's common, that
Mhm.
happens. And people would be like, okay, yeah, like I'll come to these services or I'll, whatever.
Mhm.
But a lot of the times, like there's more similarities than differences. But like Mormonism is very intense.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things where, it's like, I think the tides are turning a little bit, and that's something where they talk about in the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. But I don't know. I don't know how I don't know the ins and outs of all that, but it's like,
Sure.
it's like I think in general, the elders or what have you would probably say, well, like you're either in or you're out. And there's
Mhm.
a lot of people kind of dancing the line and trying to decide what they want to do, but it's not this like easy breezy, super simple thing to do. I mean, there's a lot of buildings that you can't go in unless
Yeah.
you're LDS, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not like an all are welcome, come on in, see what we're about.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
got bars and coffee in the basement. It's not one of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
types of churches or religions. So, yeah, so it's very interesting to hear her talk about it kind of like, yeah, like no problem. Like this will be
Right?
no issue at all. And I'm like, I think you're minimizing the amount of change that would require in a person's
Mhm.
life to be accepted into a church like that. And not saying that and Grant kind of made it sound, he's like, I don't really know a lot about Mormonism. And
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, that's pretty obvious
Right.
that you don't. Because he's like, but I think it would probably be fine. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, Grant. And maybe he's up for all that. Who knows? Who knows? But it is quite a bit to contend with.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. That was an interesting conversation for sure with Latia. Um, uh, I just wrote. I don't know why I put this in my notes. I said Latia is like, I'm LDS, and he's like, God is chill. It's not like Mormons are racist, right? Anyway, and then they get like a slow dance and whatever. I do want to mention though on the group date and some of like the people who went aside to go back in time a little bit. Um, so all the women are kind of like trying to make their last case for getting into these hometown dates.
Mhm.
Um, Serafina's like, listen, if you come home, like you're the first guy that my parents have seen in 6 years. No pressure though.
Yeah, NBD.
Yeah, I was like,
Fine.
oh, okay. And then, Alex, like, does a little bit of opening up and, is kind of like, "Hey, do you remember I exist?" Just making sure. And he's like, "I kind of remember you exist." And, but the whole thing that's really interesting about this whole part is like, what would you say that their favorite term is this whole episode? Like, what if you could sum it up in like a phrase, what would you
Ooh,
use? There's
I
something that they
don't
said over and
know.
over again. I picked up on it.
I'm interested in what this is. I must not have caught it. What is it?
Damsel in distress.
Oh, yeah. "You're being
They
such
s
a damsel in distress."
they
It's like
said that like 10
yeah,
times.
and I was thinking about that. I'm like, I don't think that means what you think it means at all.
No,
It's just because
no.
you're a woman who's, like, upset or
Upset?
emotional.
Yeah, they're just like, "How dare you feel insecure about this whole process? You're just a damsel in distress."
Just a jam
And
yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
it.
"You know what? You're not a girl's girl."
Mhm.
So there you go. Anyway, yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. Other parts of Latia's date just to go and, we're just jumping all around. I forgot how the term was pronounced. Dreich or a Drek day. You know what I'm talking about? Where she was like,
No.
it's a hold on, Scottish. She was saying that there's like a word for like a dreary day. It's like a
Mm.
bleak day in Scotland. I thought it was really interesting. I don't remember if it's pronounced Dreich or Drek,
Huh.
Dreich. But it's a word that they use in Scotland for like dark, dreary, bleak day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like dreck. Dreck is just a good word in general because it
Where
sounds
she
like what it means. It's just like dreck.
Here, hold on. He's talking. Oh, it's like I don't even know. It's like something like that.
It's
Sorry,
just the
Scottish
sound
people.
of your throat being cleared. That's it. It's fine.
But yeah, it's supposed to mean like a dark, gloomy day in
Mhm.
Scotland, and I thought that was cool that Latia learned that, and she was like, "That's what they were calling this day," but she did not pronounce it the same way. I just heard it in my ears, so I'm not sure. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So there was like this. At the end of the day, there's like this singing about being ready to love again, and they're slow dancing, and it's very beautiful and whatever. And then Carolina apologizes before the rose ceremony to Dina. And she's like, listen, I want to make it right. I messed up. Um, and I thought that that was like a nice moment. She was like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like Caroline is genuine. I don't get why people hate her so much. Um, Stop hating.
Stop
She's going to be
hating.
awesome on Paradise.
Yeah.
Leave her alone. She's going to get a good redemption on Paradise if she goes. Like she would be one of
Mhm.
the best redemption stories for sure.
Oh, totally.
Because first of all, she's already redeemed in my heart. And then we'll get to see her be even cooler.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this is interesting. So, oh, also right before the rose ceremony, the one thing I'll say is that I don't feel like anyone has talked about wives as much as Grant has.
No.
Right? I
He's
mean, you were
very
like harping on it last week. I mean, and you were getting a little intense. But I realized this week more. I was like, yeah, I do feel like he's just using the word wife a lot. And
throwing it
also,
around a
it's
lot.
weird that he's doing that and he's getting the shortened timeline. So it just feels like so abrupt. And I'm like, I literally don't
Yeah.
know anything about these women. How do you know anything about these
He's a
women?
different breed of wife guy. He's the wife guy without a wife and multiple prospects. But he's just like, I need a wife. I can see her as my wife. That's my wife. It's like,
Yeah, I'm like, well, he is not afraid to say wife. That is for
no, that
sure.
is
That's,
he's yeah.
you
Ladies,
know,
he's not afraid of commitment, or he is,
yeah,
but he just likes that word. But he did
you know,
drop that weird song
he's
on
like,
Spotify. Did you see that?
no, but I was reading. Oh, I saw a social media post from Carolina where it was like waking up to zero accusations that I went on the show for my music and dance career, and she's like sitting on the floor and like shaking. Um, she's so funny. Like she's
Mhm,
so funny. You can't tell. Everyone's gonna like Carolina in like a year or something, and they're gonna be like, I always liked her. I never hated her, and then
mhm.
yeah, we'll
We
be able to
know.
pull up those Reddit threads and
That's
show how
right.
much you hated her, and we were right and you were wrong, okay?
Mhm,
But yeah,
mhm,
people are like, "Oh, actually, she's, like, pretty funny." I'm like, "Yeah, she's
mhm.
always been funny. Where have
Yeah,
you been?"
it's
Like,
good. It's
duh.
good stuff.
Yeah, so anyway, so people are starting to accuse Grant of remember, like I said, I was like, I think he's one of the most musically talented people who's been on the show,
Yeah.
but I thought it was just casual.
Mhm. No, it would be nice if it was casual, but, he may have natural musical talent, but, even though he took his song down off of Spotify, the internet is, of course, forever, so you can find it, and it's not that good. Not very good at all.
It's so interesting. Okay, so here's some of the opinions. So wait, is this the one called Party Girls? That happened like a month ago.
Yeah, party girls.
Why so
'Cause
this
he but
this
so,
got
like, there's
posted a month ago, but people are talking about it now, which is
yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, like, people discovered that he had dropped this song or whatever, and it didn't get a lot of plays. And then he immediately, like, pulled it because I guess it was in, like, poor taste, and, also it's called Party Girls, but he's the wife guy. Nothing is tracking. It was just bad timing all around by Grant, and most of all, the song sucks, so
Yeah, it's so weird. Well, and someone said, I thought the song he riffed on the piano during an episode was so much better. Cause I was like,
yeah.
yeah, that just feels very natural. Like he's obviously like naturally good at this. So that's interesting that then the produced thing that he made people hate. As someone who works in music, this rollout, if you can even call it that, is killing me. Someone said, what the fuck am I listening to?
Mhm.
Um, who's Lori Harvey? Apparently she's in there. They said, what did Lori Harvey do? Such a random name drop. Is he the new Jed? Oof. Oof. Yeah, Grant reminds me of that one dude from high school who says, "Where my hug at?" Yeah, I thought he was gonna be singing a lot in this season. I don't
He
know.
is the "Where My Hug At" guy.
It's definitely a song. So
Oh.
this kind of annoyed. This is already giving me the ick. He's only I mean, you didn't like Grant from the get-go, and this made a lot of people not like him.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's like yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'll have to listen to it. I'll listen to it and report back. I didn't know that he released but apparently he wait, did he release other music too? Because I read
I was only familiar with Party Girls.
well, because there's well, it says Grant Ellis, musical artist, 301 monthly listeners. Oof, it's a little sad. Is this a different guy? Oh, this is a different. There's a different guy named Grant Ellis, maybe, who wrote a song called Soul Eater. That's a different guy, right? Yeah.
That's gotta be a different guy, yeah.
Um, Milky Milk. Yeah, that's got to be a different guy. Interesting, interesting. Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll report back. Maybe I'll listen to it for a second. But yeah, so at the end, we get Latia, Juliana, Dina, and Zoe going to hometowns. Are you surprised? How do you feel?
Um, it's weird.
Okay.
Juliana, kind of a dark horse, like, I mean, she had a good one-on-one, obviously.
Their physical chemistry is like ridiculous. So I think he's just
Yeah.
like, let's get to the fantasy
Yeah, I
suites.
think he's riding that wave.
I think,
Totally,
yeah.
totally.
And he's like, but we also do have an emotional connection. Okay. And I gave
Mhm,
her the
yeah,
shopping date. So
because wedding, yeah, and marriage and wife.
mhm.
Uh, Dina makes no sense to me, and that's not even a, like, I dislike Dina, I just think that she's not.
Dina makes perfect sense to me because I think that's where Grant thinks he is. I think he's on
Uh-huh.
Dean. I
Oh,
think
because like,
he thinks he's
she's a
on Dina's level.
successful bulldozer, and
I
he
think
thinks
he's
that
like,
that's who he
that's
is.
where I am. Me and Dina, we're like
We're the
this.
same.
And
Yeah.
Dina, don't don't think that.
No.
You are
You know what?
Just saying.
You're totally right. That's
Yeah.
it. It's like his perspective versus reality is
Yeah.
totally off,
I
but
think
okay.
he's like,
Dina
yeah,
makes more
Dina and
sense
I
that
are on
way.
the exact same level, and Dina's like, not so sure.
Yeah, Latia, Plant, Zoe, clear winner. Like that's it.
I
That's
love that
it.
you're just like, Zoe is the clear winner. I don't really see as much chemistry between him and Zoe as I
I think
do
they have
with
none.
him.
We're not getting anything from them. That's
I would
why
say
it's like
out of the 4, I think Juliana is, like, the only one who makes sense to me in my brain at this point in terms of
mhm.
who he's connected with, because I thought he had more of a connection with Carolina and Alex, and
Yeah.
they're both gone. And
Yeah.
Serafina, I mean, they had a nice moment, but I didn't really see a lot of chemistry between them, but I was surprised because I thought he and Alex seemed to have a really nice, like, dynamic
Mhm.
together, and Carolina, obviously, it's a little tumultuous, but it's like those tend to end up in like the final 2 or 3. So I thought she would make it there. And they
Mhm.
obviously connected enough. So, and Latia, I feel like, yeah, I don't see a lot of people like saying no to Latia. She has like a really she's got a very lovely personality. She's like
Mhm.
very like radiant, you know what I
Oh,
mean? She
totally.
just kind of she does like radiate this very beautiful energy about her. And so yeah, I wasn't surprised about Latia. I wasn't
Mhm.
surprised about I mean, I was a little surprised about Zoe just cuz I haven't really seen a lot there.
Yeah.
I was not surprised with Juliana. I'm a little yeah, Dina makes sense to me, but if I was, like, actually thinking about who made sense with Grant, I wouldn't
Yeah.
put them together, but the way I think his brain works, he's like, "She's yeah, she's she's on that success train, and I'm there too,
Mhm.
and I'm pulling into the station with my song Party Girl."
Party girl. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I'm looking for.
yeah.
I'm just a day trader looking for a party girl.
Is that one of the lines?
No, that's if I was writing the lyrics,
Oh,
that would be
okay, wait, it's on YouTube, hold on. I'll link this. Already, there's a lot of strings. It opens with, like, a lot of strings. I'm actually, like, surprised.
He's the
Okay.
Jason Derulo of Bachelor Nation. That's what I feel.
Well, and it's, like it's also got, like, that crackly, quality to it.
Mhm.
Oof.
It's not the worst song written in Bachelor history, but,
No, no. Nothing can be as bad as Cream Dreams.
wah.
It's not, like, the worst thing ever. No. It's not the worst thing ever.
No, it's
But
not good.
it's not it's not what I was expecting, I guess.
No,
I don't
it's one of
know.
those things where it's just like, if he wasn't on The Bachelor, there would be no, like, conceivable scenario where you would listen to this,
Yeah, I mean, it's
or
not good as
anyone.
gold or anything like that.
No, no. Exactly.
Sheena, someday you'll have a music career.
Oh, Sheena
No, he
Shea.
won't.
Oh my
But yeah,
god.
well, I'll put it in the description. You can listen for yourself. It's yeah, it just runs counter to his whole wife guy image, I think.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just kind of reading as
I
I
don't
mean,
know. Cringy to
maybe he
me.
could yeah, maybe he could play at like some high school dances or something like that. You know?
No, kids would hate it. Are you
It's
kidding me?
giving
They'd be
bar
like, "Who's
mitzvah. It's giving
who's giving bar mitzvah?" Like, "Wait, this guy's on that boomer show and"
it like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, we got this guy who yeah, he was on TV and, he's gonna play at my sweet 16 party, but we
Yes.
don't have the budget for" and
Just
so
like The
we're
Bachelor
bringing
doesn't
him
have
on.
the budget. That's
Right, like, that's kinda what I'm getting from it. It's
Yeah.
not bad, it's not like yeah, it's I would say Jed's music is worse,
No, Jed's music is much worse, and but so
like,
is
and
Jed.
yeah, and Ben's music was terrible. So, like,
Mhm.
this is not the worst song ever or anything like that, but it's yeah, it's just kinda like it's just tacky. I think if he had released it before the show, well before the show, I would feel differently, and maybe if it came out a year or 2 after the show, I would feel differently too, but that
Mhm.
it's coming out at the same time as the show, that it came out, like, a month ago, that's odd to me. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta be careful about the timing of your promo stuff,
Mhm.
you gotta wait a number of years before you launch something like a Jilly box.
Mhm.
And by
Mhm.
the way, it's delayed. I've emailed Jilly. we'll see what happens. But it's like it's stuck in like Vancouver, like
Just
or
in
something.
customs with the live
Well,
spiders that are
it
inside the
it
box.
got released from customs, but it's still there, and they're like, "It's delayed," and I was like, "What does that mean?" So I
Yeah, that's
emailed
weird.
Jilly, and I was like, "Jilly, I am trying to review your box, but it has not arrived to me, and here is the information from the Canada Post, and please advise, thank you." So I do not have a Jilly box to share with you yet, but
Mm,
we gotta go anyway because, I gotta go do very legal things and someone else
yeah.
less so.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it, like, the most illegal thing, like, it's, like, light smuggling, like,
You're admitting it, I'm not. I
I
kept it vague,
I
just
have admitted
saying.
nothing. Light smuggle that can mean a lot to a lot of different people.
But anyway, sorry this was so late. Blame both of us. It was both of our faults.
Yes.
But we will be back next week with a recap of the hometowns, probably earlier in the week. And until then, um, stay stay classy. I don't know. I don't have anything to say today.
We would walk 500 miles for our listeners,
We
so
would. And
don't
500 more. Yeah.
yeah, so don't do needle drugs. Can't walk if you're doing that.
No.
No, doesn't work.
You get lethargic, as one of our favorites says.
Lethargic.
It's 3 p.m. I just
Send
had
me
lunch.
the Google
I'm
Slides.
lethargic.
I just had lunch.